Hello everybody, and welcome to Shane and Stuff. This is how to play Castles of Burgundy. In Castles of Burgundy, you are a 15th century French Prince of Bel-Air. Wait, no, sorry. You're a French Prince in Burgundy, France, and you want to create the most fabulous and impressive estate by trading goods, building, farming, and advancing science. So here we have the board all set up for a two-player game. The layout may look like a lot, but it's quite simple. This is the scoring track. This is the turn order track. These are piles of goods for the 5 phases of the game. These are the 6 depots where you will acquire tiles and goods. Each depot has a corresponding die number, 1 through 6. When you want to buy a tile from a depot, you just use a die with the corresponding number. So if I wanted this building here, I'd have to roll a 3 on my turn, and then I could spend that to take that building in. You can see I've laid out tiles all over the board. All the tile spaces have numbers telling you which ones to fill in for how many players you have. So I have filled all the ones marked with 2. You simply take a tile from the matching pile and put it over the space. You can see that the 3s and 4s are empty. You would also fill those in a 3 or 4 player game. Also, you'll notice the symmetry of the game, which I really like. So for instance, in Depot 1 and 4, you have 1 ship and 1 building, and up here you have 1 ship and 1 building. Here you have knowledge, castle, animal, and building. Then you have building, animal, mine, and knowledge. So they swap the mine and castle, but it goes in reverse. And then for more players, it's a similar type of symmetry. Very cool. I like that a lot. So in the center here is the black depot. You can buy those tiles by spending 2 silverlings. These are the bonus tiles you will receive for filling up areas of your estate. On that note, each player is going to receive a player card which includes your estate, your turn actions reference, your used dice spot, your silverling storage, your goods storage, a reference for points for completing sections, a reference for what each of the tiles do, a worker storage space, and your 3 tile storage spaces. When you start, you will use the sheets marked with 1, so each estate is the same. Once you're ready, you can start using other player sheets which have different configurations of estates. There are 9 total player sheets. Every estate, however, will have the same amount of each type of space, so you can see here there are 6 ship spaces, all these blues, and on the other side, which is sheet 5, there are still 6 blue spaces, but they're in a different configuration. So this estate is different. Everything else in the player card is the same. Now to start, each person will receive 3 random goods and put them in their goods storage spaces. You store goods according to type, so if you have any of the same ones, you will stack them. So for instance, if I had another red one, if I obtain another red one, I would want to stack this on that one. If I were to obtain an orange one, then I would not have a space to put it because I only have 3 spaces. If I wanted to, I could get rid of one and then I could take the orange. Otherwise, probably don't want to take the orange if I want to keep those. So there are 6 types of goods, 1 for each number on the die. So you can see the red has the 4, pink has 3, blue has 1, and so on. As you sell goods, you'll put them in the sold goods spot here. You will also receive 1 silverling and your starting castle. So you put the starting castle for sheet 1 right in the center. When you use the other sheets, you can actually decide whether to use the starting castle or to put it wherever you want. You can even decide to do that on these, but in your first game, everybody should have the same. As you start building your estate, you must build adjacent to where you already have tiles. So at the beginning, you can only build in one of the 6 spaces surrounding your castle. Now each player will roll 1 die to determine the start player. I already did that and red won. So red gets 1 worker and the white die. Then you go clockwise and give each player 1 more worker than the last. So green gets 2 workers. If you had more players, the next person in clockwise would get 3, and then the 4th player would get 4 workers. Then you stack the player markers on the turn order track to match the turn order going top to bottom, and you're ready to begin. So since red is first, you go red, then green. If you had more, you would go down in clockwise order. So the game takes place over 5 phases with 5 rounds in each phase. So you bring down the pile of goods for phase 1, placing 1 good in each space for each round. So as you play the game, you will know exactly where you are in the game by looking at the empty phase spaces and round spaces. So we're in the first phase, first turn of the game, first round, where each person's going to play their first turns. So if this was gone, we'd be in the second phase. If these two were gone, we know we're on our third turn, etc. Our second turn. So the first player will roll the white die, and he will take the first good and place it on that number's depot. So depot 4. So that's the good storage space of depot 4. Now each player rolls their 2 dice simultaneously, and the first player takes their turn. You roll the dice simultaneously so that while one person's going, the rest of the people can be thinking about what they're going to do with their dice. On your turn, there are only 5 possible actions. You will play each die one at a time, using them for one of these 4 die actions, and if you have at least 2 silverlings, you have an optional action of purchasing from the black depot once per turn. So what are the 4 die actions? The first one is take a tile from the board that matches the die you are playing and put it in your storage space. So I rolled a 4 and a 1, so I could pick a tile from the 4 depot or the 1 depot and place it in my storage space. So maybe I want to take a ship tile and put it here. So there we go. That's it. And I would just spend that 4, put it right here on the used space. That's my first action. The second action is take a tile from your storage space and place it on your state on a space matching both the color of the tile and the number of the die. Every time you add a tile to your estate, 1 or more things will happen. I'll go through these later. But right now, I only have a 1, so if I wanted to put this ship in my estate, I can't because the only ship places adjacent to my castle is a 2 or a 5. But pretend I had a 2 instead, I could then spend that 2 and I can move my ship to this 2 space. Now, when I do that, something's going to happen, but I'll explain that later. The third action is to sell all goods of one type that match the die you're using. So let's backtrack and say I didn't do this, and this was back to the 1. So I can spend this 1, and then I can sell the good I have that has the value of 1. So if I only have the 1, I'll sell it. I'm going to get 1 silverling. You're always only going to get 1 silverling no matter how many goods you're selling, and then I'll get points equal to the number of players. So in a 2-player game, that would be 2 points. 3-player, 3 points. 4-player, 4 points. So let's go back to, say I had the 2 4s, the 2 reds that I was talking about earlier. And let's say I had spent this 4 to do that instead. I could sell these. I'll still only get 1 silverling, but I'm going to get 4 points because these are both worth 2 points in a 2-player game. It would be 6 points in a 3-player, 8 points in a 4-player, etc. When you score the points, you'll simply advance your turn marker the number of points. So if I sold that 1, I would just go 1. If I sold the 2 for 4, I would go to 4. So if your die result doesn't do what you want it to do, you can always spend a die of any number, and you can do the last action, which is just take 2 worker tiles. So I can do that, and I would just take 2 workers from the supply and place them in my worker pile. As I mentioned, you have an optional action you can do before, in between, or after your die actions, and that is spend 2 silverlings to get a tile from the black depot. The black depot contains a mixture of other tile types and some science tiles that only exist in the black depot. So if I had 2 silverlings, either before I spend my dice, in the middle, or when I'm done, I have the option to spend 2 of the silverlings and get whatever I want out of the black depot. So as I said, every time you add a tile to your estate, 1 or more things happen. First, the effect of the tile. Your sheet reminds you what each tile does. So first, you have knowledge, aka science, ship, animal, and castle tiles for yellow, blue, light green, and dark green. Each science tile does something different I will go through at the end of the video. Every ship tile does the same thing. When you place it, you can pull all the goods from any single depot down to your sheet. Now, you don't have to pull all of them if you don't want. There might be multiple types, and you might only want 1 type. So you can pull those down, and then you will also advance 1 space on the turn order track. So let's say red played the ship tile like we were saying earlier. So when that happens, I would then move my marker 1 up on the turn order track, and I would take the goods down. So I could take this down and put it in my 1 pile. Now I have 2 1 goods. and that's the end of that action. So when you change the turn order in that way, right now it's still the same. But then if green were to play a ship tile, they would move one to the right. Now they are on top. That makes them the first player. Turn order is determined from right to left, top to bottom. So every time you begin a new round, you see who the first player is. They're going to get the white die to do that roll for the good, and then you're going to go in order of the turn order track. It doesn't remain clockwise the whole time. So animal tiles, they score you points every time you place a tile. So if I were to place a 2 sheep into my pasture, I would put it here and I would get 2 points. In addition to that, anytime you play the same animal tile that's already in a pasture, you will rescore any tiles with that same animal. So if I wanted to place this 3 sheep into this pasture now, I would get those 3 points plus another 2 because there's already sheep here. So I would have gotten those 2 points before, but now I'm going to get 5 points just by playing this second sheep tile. So castle tiles, they allow you an immediate action as if you had a die of any result. So it's basically like getting a whole free action with any die value you want. So the beige tiles are buildings, and there are 8 different ones. There are 7 of each, and 16 of them are in the black depot. Each building gives you a different immediate effect. On your player sheet, each connected section of beige is considered a city. You could only have 1 of each type of building in every city. So you couldn't have 2 city halls right here or 2 banks. You would have to put 1 bank here and 1 bank here. Or any other city. So now I'll go through each one of these. The warehouse allows you to sell goods of any one type. So that's exactly the same as your die actions of selling goods, except you're going to get it for free when you're already spending a die to build your warehouse. So the Carpenter's Workshop allows you to take any one building from the board and put it in your storage space, except for the black depot. It has to come from a regular depot. The black depot can only be got by buying them with 2 silverlings. So the church and the market are similar. The church gets you the mine, castle, or knowledge tiles. The market gets you a ship or an animal tile. The boarding house, when you build it, will instantly give you 4 new workers. The bank, when you build it, will give you 2 silverlings. Now the city hall, when you build it, will allow you to take any other building from your storage space and add it to your estate. So let's say you wanted to chain city halls, or anytime you're going to build a city hall, you definitely want to have at least 1 other building in your storage space in order to use its power. So let's say we actually had 1 city hall, 2 city halls, and then we have a market. So this would be interesting because on 1 action, so let's say we have a ship here, let's say we had a 5, okay, and we're going to spend that 5 in order to build this city hall here. Now, that instantly allows us to build anything into our estate. So I'm going to throw this city hall over here. The bonus actions do not require a die value, it just has to match the color of the space. Now that city hall is going to trigger and I get to take another one out of my storage space. So I'm going to play a market, let's just say right here. Now that market allows me to pull down any ship or animal space. So let me pull down, let's pull down these chickens. So now I have some chickens I can add to my sheet over there. But that would be the end of that chain. But in 1 action, I got to build 3 things and get another tile into my storage space. So very powerful, figuring out how you can use the actions to chain onto other actions to get more out of every die you spend. So the watchtower just gets you 4 points immediately when you build it. Now, if you build a mine, they're the only ones that doesn't give you something right away, except for some of the knowledge tiles as well. But for the mines, at the end of every phase, for every mine you have in your estate, you will get 1 silverling. So every estate is going to have 3 possible mines. So if you fill them up at the end of every phase, you'll get 3 silverlings. Now, if when building a tile, you complete any 1 colored section of your estate, you're going to get a bonus. So let's say you filled up these 3 ship spaces. First, you're going to get a bonus according to the number of spaces in the area. So for 3 spaces, you're going to get 6 points immediately. So you advance your score on the score track. Next, you're going to get bonus points according to what phase you're in. So every phase up here has points underneath it. So phase 1, if you complete a section, you're going to get 10 points, 8 and 2, 6 and 3, 4 in 4, and 2 in phase 5. So the earlier you can fill up any single region, you're going to get a lot of points for it. But as the game goes on, you're already going to be filling up, so they give you less points for it then. But you will always get this bonus as well, no matter what phase it is. So in addition to that, if you're the first person to fill up all of any single color on the whole estate, you'll also get a bonus. So let's say you filled up these 3 ships and these 3 ships. Now all the ship spaces are full. So you're going to get a bonus tile according to that type of space. So if you're the first person, you're going to get the big bonus tile. The big bonus tile gets you 5, 6, or 7 points in a 2, 3, or 4 player game respectively. The small bonus tile gets you 2, 3, or 4 points in a 2, 3, or 4 player game respectively. So in a 3 or 4 player game, only the first 2 people are going to get this bonus. After that, they're just gone. Okay, so what do worker tiles do? Worker tiles allow you to change a die result by plus or minus 1 for every worker you spend. So it says see the -1 and the +1 on the worker. So if you rolled a 3, but you wanted it to be a 5, you can spend 2 worker tiles to increase it by 1 each, and now it's 5. You can also go from 1 to 6 and 6 to 1. So if I wanted a 6, I had rolled a 1, I could spend a worker and increase it by 1, or decrease it by 1 and rolling over to 6. Okay? So basically any die result is a maximum of 3 workers away. So that's it for what you will do on your turn. At the end of each round, you will keep what tiles are left on the board. The first player, who right now, if it looked like that, would be green. So they're going to take the white die, they're going to roll it, they're going to take that second round good and put it where the die result was. Happens to match the good number, but that doesn't matter. It's the die result. You put it in Depot 3. So after you do that, then you proceed with everyone rolls their dice, and you take your actions once again in turn order. At the end of a phase, you will then wipe all tiles from the board. You can leave ships, mines, or castles, since every ship, mine, or castle tile is the same, so why wipe it? Because these don't change. You're going to wipe a building tile if it's left, and you're going to put a new building tile out. But the building tiles are random and will change. Castle tile, no need in removing it, it's already a castle. So then you refresh all new tiles on all the 2 spaces in 2-player game, etc. You know how that goes. And then each player will get a silverling for each mine they have in their estate, and you'll bring down the goods for the round. So let's say we had moved on to phase 2. You're going to do this again. So you're basically going to wipe all the tiles, replace the tiles, bring the goods down, have the first player roll the die, bring the new good out, whatever, 2, okay, so we'll put that in the 2. And then you proceed in turn order with the new phase. So at the very end of the game, you will score 1 victory point for each unsold goods tile, each remaining silverling, and every 2 worker tiles. Then you will also get points for any knowledge tiles that you have in your estate that give you endgame points. So that is basically it for how to play. I'll go over all of the knowledge tiles after this, but you can basically get started with that and simply go over the yellow tiles as you play, because each one does something different, and there are 26 of them. So be sure to go to BoardGameGeek.com and get these fantastic reference sheets created by Evgeny Liakovich, which basically covers everything you need to remember in the game, including the effect of every yellow tile, which I will go through now. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and I'll be sure to put out more like it. So now, the yellow tiles. So this token allows you to ignore that rule that you can only build 1 type of building in every city. Very powerful, because then you don't have to worry about where you put your building tiles if you already have one of that type. This tile gives you an extra worker anytime you get your silverlings for your mines. This tile gives you an extra silverling when you sell your goods. This tile gives you an extra worker in addition to your silverling. So if you have these 2 together, you would get not only 2 silverlings, but a worker too every time you sell goods. And this final tile, whenever you add a ship, you can choose to take goods from 2 neighboring good spaces and add them to storage instead of just 1. This tile allows you to buy tiles from all the depots instead of just the black depot. Awesome. This is super powerful too, because then, you basically can take another tile instead of having to only, if you've already used your dice, or you want to use them for other things. This one gives you an extra VP for every animal tile that scores when you score animal tiles. So basically, in that example we had earlier with the sheep, when I placed that second one, I would not only get the 5 points, but I would get 1 more point for each tile involved. So that would actually be worth 7 points. Or if I was only building a single tile, let's say I built the chickens, there's only 1 tile involved, so I'm going to get 2 plus 1 is 3. But if I built another chicken, then I'm going to get all of the chicken points plus 1 for each tile. So let's just pretend maybe I get this sheep, I build another sheep. Now it's 3 plus 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8 plus 1 for each tile, 11 points. That's awesome, but I put that in my castle space. That should go in the pasture there. This tile allows you to adjust die results by plus or minus 2 for every worker. This tile allows you to adjust die results by 1 anytime you're building a building into your estate. That's just amazing. You don't even have to use workers. It just works for buildings. This one does the same thing for ship and animals, and this one does the same thing for castle, knowledge, and mines. Now this one allows you to adjust any die results when you're taking 6-sided tiles from the game board. This one gives you 1 silverling in addition to the 2 worker tiles when you do the take workers actions. This one gives you 4 workers instead of 2 when you do the take worker actions. This one gives you 3 victory points at the end of the game for each goods type that was sold. This one gives you a certain number of points per building type pictured, 4 points. This one gives you 3 points for every animal type you have on your board at the end of the game. This one gives you 1 point for every sold goods tile in the sold goods pile. That rhymed. And this one gives you 2 victory points at the end of the game for each bonus tile you have claimed, large or small. So for every one of these, it's worth 2 points at the end of the game if you have that knowledge tile in your estate. That is basically it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. Once again, if you liked it, please like it, subscribe, and I'll put more of these videos out. That's it. Have a great day. Live long and prosper. End of line.